All right, this is Chance, Eclectica Cafe. We are in New Orleans, Louisiana. We are talking to Jesse. How do you say it? St. Croix.
Yeah.
All right, and you are with?
Haunted History Tours, the oldest walking tour company in the city of New Orleans.
Excellent. And we just got done with our tour. It was excellent. I would recommend it. What's your website?
HauntedHistoryTours.com.
All right. And what we want to ask Jesse about is kind of what makes New Orleans unique in its haunted history compared to the rest of the country, especially, stuff that's unique concerning voodoo and witchcraft and that sort of thing, and maybe even how you would go about dealing with that, if you could speak on that. But Jesse, I mean, just to start out with that, what would you say is unique about New Orleans compared to the paranormal occurrences that you might find in the rest of the country?
I've lived in this town for 40 years. Just about everything is unique about the city of New Orleans. As far as it relates to paranormal experiences, hauntings and things like that, this town was founded on a cursed Indian burial ground, back even before the white man came along through.
And we know, like most classic scary movies, you want to avoid Indian burial grounds.
Yes, you certainly do. But they decided not to do that when they came here because there wasn't a whole lot of space to go through. So they did put their settlement right here, even though it was on the burial ground. Over the years, we've had numerous amounts of diseases, murders, Indian wars, Indian battles, alligators, God knows what else has happened. We were founded here by rejects from France. France sent us over murderers, rapists, tour guides, if you will, all kinds of people that were sent over here out of the prisons of Paris to settle this town. So this is how we got our start. This is our DNA. 300 years later, in 3 years from now, not a whole lot has changed in all these years.
So I know, I think one of the more notable sites or aspects about New Orleans and its sort of paranormal history is Marie Laveau,
Yeah,
and that's
our Voodoo Queen, our second Voodoo Queen.
right. And that was really popularized most recently with American Horror Story, like season 3, I think.
Yeah.
Where did they get that right? And I mean, where do you think they kind of exaggerated or embellished a little bit?
They got a lot of it right. They got a lot of it incorrect. A lot of that, what they talked about, those kind of things did happen. However, chronologically, they were incorrect as far as the dates that were going on. The people that interacted in that TV show would probably never have known each other because of society and the classes and things like that. Okay. In those days. They probably would not have known each other, but they took that Hollywood license, that theatrical license, if you will, and they threw these people together and made a very entertaining TV show about it. I mean, I give them credit for that. Correct? Not 100%. Entertaining? Absolutely. In my opinion, anyway.
So that kind of leads me into another part of this that I want to talk about that is unique to this area in Louisiana and other parts of the South. Voodoo. I mean, and a lot of times, like as a Judeo-Christian country founded on Judeo-Christian principles, we kind of trace back a lot of the darker aspects of paranormal activity to these sort of dark, occult type things. How does voodoo play into that, and how does that sort of bring up that activity that may not be present anywhere else?
Well, the voodoo comes into our history here very early in time when the slave trade was brought over here. A lot of these slaves were voodoo practitioners. They were brought over here at the very beginning of our town, back in the early 1700s when we were founded. Slaves were not exactly asked what their religion was at the time in Africa. They were just brought here. Now, without going too deeply into that and giving away our voodoo tour, I'm going to leave it at that on that one. But there is a very strong voodoo history in this town, and it has been here for many years. And just so you know, voodoo is an actual religion. It is not just this Hollywood glam stuff that they have come up with. There is an actual religion that many people do practice in this town and in other towns. And again, I don't want to give away too much of our voodoo tour or our 5-in-1 tour because that does encompass a little bit of voodoo as well. But that's pretty much where voodoo comes into our history.
And to kind of expand on that further, I think like a lot of religions, there's a little bit of a misconception on aspects of that. And I know that we concentrate on a lot of the darker parts of voodoo, and I know that there is a more, I think, a lighter aspect as well. Exactly. But what are some of the darker aspects that I think people are leery of that may conjure up some of those darker entities?
Well, the darker side of voodoo has mostly been brought about by Hollywood. Okay, Hollywood likes to take things and exploit them like vampirism in different directions than what they would really go.
Kind of like the Warrens have with The Conjuring and all these movies.
Yeah, exactly. Now, voodoo, the darker side of voodoo is something called hoodoo. That is the black magic. That is the casting of spells. That's the chicken sacrifices that people think of because of Hollywood and things like that. The voodoo religion itself, again, without getting too deep into it, the voodoo religion itself is based on helping and healing for the most part. It is a religion. In fact, it's very similar to Catholicism.
Really? How so? How would you say that?
I would say come take a tour.
Another, I guess, thing I was going to bring up is how would you, I guess, if somebody said that they were dealing with some of these darker entities, and I don't know if you can speak on this because I don't think you guys are necessarily dealing in paranormal investigation as you are so much just giving people an opportunity to see this stuff, but how would you maybe, if somebody was dealing with a dark entity, how would you tell them to get rid of it or to exercise it or what have you?
Well, it kind of depends on what you're calling a dark entity. If you're dealing with a haunting, sometimes those are actually very easy to get rid of. Very often, all you have to do is address that entity and ask it to leave you alone, and quite often, it will. You do sometimes need exorcisms and things like that, and we do have people within this company that do deal with that kind of stuff. We do have people within this company that do paranormal investigations and things like that. So I personally am not real versed in that. So I'm not the best person to talk about that. But there are ways to deal with just about any kind of evil spirit, if you will, that you might come across.
What is your background into the paranormal?
I have been experiencing paranormal things most of my life.
Okay.
I have always had paranormal experiences. I have always believed that there must be something else out there. I came into this company about 5 years ago at a really good time in my life because of a bunch of different reasons. But having had this background in the belief of paranormal, it made perfect sense for me to come into haunted history tours. I started out as a ghost tour guide with the company about 5 years ago, because I do believe that there is such a thing as paranormal out there. I do believe that there are, maybe not ghosts necessarily, but definitely paranormal experiences that people have. I believe that people, when they die, they can come back and revisit.
I think sometimes people are maybe a little bit concerned with when you delve into this a little bit, when you get interested in the paranormal, or even if you like do something as simple as watching scary movies, that you're kind of opening a door. How do you approach that? Do you think, I mean, do you ever, or have you experienced that being involved in this career, that you've sort of opened a door to any sort of entity, whether it be dark or light, and how do you deal with it once you've done that?
I do think that that is a possibility. In some cases, not in all cases, of course. It has opened up a door for me in the years that I've been with the company. I have started to experience other things that I have noticed in my life. I'm not going to go into the different things that I have, but there have been other experiences that I've had in the last several years. Coming into this company definitely opened up a door for me. For one thing, it opened up a door to me to a lot of other people that believe, as I do, that there are definitely afterlife experiences that people can have.
So, I mean, when you open a door to the light aspect, don't you also open a door to the dark? And is that a risk you take?
I would think so, absolutely. I don't think you can do one without the other. You do, in anything in life, whichever way you go, when you open a door to anything, you take the chance that it may not be exactly the best possible experience you were hoping for, but it's always going to teach you something.
Right. And is there the risk, and again, this may be something that's maybe embellished a little bit on the Hollywood side, of it attaching and not going away? I mean, is it reckless, I guess, sometimes to maybe go into this and use Ouija boards without maybe the experience that you maybe should have, or maybe even being in the career that you have? And if that does happen, how do you go about dealing with it?
I would have to say you do have to go about any experience. Anytime you try to open a door to just about anything in this life, you do have to realize that you are taking a shot, that something could go not quite the way that you wanted to go.
All right, I think that's all I got, unless you have any parting shots, anything you want to leave us with?
No, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. I do hope that when folks come to the city of New Orleans, they will realize that we are one of the most haunted cities in the United States, if not the most haunted. I've been to other cities that claim to be more haunted than we are. I kind of know their history. I know our history. I believe we're more haunted. When you come here, you will take one of our tours, and hopefully you'll understand, because of the reasonings that I've been talking about in the last few minutes, we are definitely one of the most haunted cities in the country.
Awesome. All right, and one more time, where can we find you?
We're at hauntedhistorytours.com. You can give us a call at 504-861-2727.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jesse.
All right.
All right.